France make it back-to-back Six Nations titles after one of the best championships in modern memory. Welcome back to the Rock and Roll Show. As we take time to take a breath after that Super Saturday, describe this year's championship in one word: best. Right, the best Six Nations we've ever had.
I think so.
That
Yeah.
is that's a bold way to go. But I tell you what, after last weekend's uh, action, it's not far off it. France again, they get it done in Paris. We wondered, could England put it on them, and boy did they put it on them for the whole game. That Tom Ramos penalty to win it and the very death and snatch the title away from Ireland. Running down on the show, we'll review all three of those games, and we'll give you each of our player and young players of the tournaments before our team of the tournament, and then a quick fire five to finish as we round up the 2026 Six Nations. But we'll start into France, England, 48 points to 46 in Paris. Dom, you were unable to watch the first half, but you certainly tuned in to the second half, and I mean, goodness me, what a game that was.
Yeah, superb. It just goes to show what England can do, to be honest. I think part of me was kind of hoping we'd get battered so that if we played the same game plan, then systemic change had to be made by Borthwick and his coaching staff. But I think he did change the plan a little bit, played a bit more attacking rugby, fronted up, went at them. And so it was a bit of an eye-opener to all England fans, to all rugby fans really, to show that, England can play heads-up rugby, forward rugby, go forward. And it was really nice to watch. It was really enjoyable rather than the boring kind of kick tennis that we like to play in that retention ball. But no, it was, what a game. I think, some might argue we were quite unfortunate not to win it, but I think when you look at the tournament on the whole, I think France were definitely the deserved winners in the tournament. So I don't have any qualms with how it all turned out. But yeah, I think France were definitely the deserved winners, and it was nice not to present it to any of the other home nations, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm not too sure about that myself, but sure, that's my own personal standpoint. Well, yeah, France have been absolutely fantastic all tournament, but Dom, that was not the story on Saturday night. To be honest, I mean, England really went after them. You asked last week, could Freeman, could Atkinson go at the French? Could they just take the ball and back themselves and run with the ball? And I mean, they absolutely did. You talk about that physical game fronting up. I thought Ollie Chesham and Alex Coles were two absolute behemoths on that pitch, just fronting up to that French physicality. Some of the techs that Chesham was having at the restarts was such a huge platform for England's attacks. What would you think you would highlight as the key difference from this week, as we've seen from England or other weeks, where it's probably a wee bit more languid, a wee bit more sort of kick tennis, sort of tactical battle?
Yeah, I think you and I have both summed it up, in this opening few minutes, that it was just, there was more energy. It seemed like there was more energy, and I don't know why we can't compete like that every week. Act like every game is a cup final. Act like we have to win every game, because you don't become top of the world by kind of putting in half-assed performances here and there. It's being inconsistent, and sometimes teams will best you, and that's just the nature of sport in general, not just rugby. So it was just, as I say, it was nice to see, as you mentioned, Atkinson, Freeman running up and taking the ball in and not being afraid, and Chesham as well was superb that game. But I think going forward, I want to see that more often. I want to see I don't mind kicking now and again. It's a good way to relieve pressure. It does work for England when sometimes we put in that high ball from the box kick and we do win it back. Sometimes it does. I'm not disagreeing with that, but it was just that Italy game was just so frustrating, because it was like 5 minutes to go, we're down, and the option was that we just try and do that same thing again rather than keeping ball in hand and running at them. Italy, they've had a superb tournament, but you can still best them when you've got that physicality, you've got that quality ahead of them. So I just don't see why we weren't backing ourselves in that game, in a game that we could have probably gone on and won. But it's the nature of the beast, isn't it? you can look back on games and think, oh, if we'd have done this or done that, but we didn't. So there's no point dwelling on it. All we can do is look forward and think, yeah, we need to do this in future.
It was almost like that game was almost like a Buck Super Rugby game, to be honest. Like the university, just back and forth, just tries lining up events. In many ways, quite like an English Premiership game as well, where the attacks were very much on top and the defenses were sort of struggling to keep up with each other. And France on the other side of that, Dom, and you speak about England's prowess and attack and sort of how their, I guess, key thing there was their physicality. You mentioned with Chessum and Cole and Toje and others, Ben Earl, who's had a fantastic tournament even despite England finishing fifth. But France is just, it's always the clinical edge, isn't it? It's always get the ball in the space where Louis Bielbarré is going to run and he will finish. And just the way they were able to sort of find that space for him, even when they were on the back foot. I mean, that try where Dupont finds him with a box kick, that just put France like right back. Well, put them in front at that stage, and it was just like bits like that. It's just so hard to defend when you know what's coming, but you don't really know how to defend it, or you don't quite know what's coming, but you know something's coming. I think that's something that France have just, even despite the two games, I mean they've scored nearly 90 points against yourselves and Scotland in the last two games, when in many facets of the game they've been bested in, both in the physicality, and I think that'll be a worry a little bit for the French, particularly with Sean Edwards, when you think about coming up against sides like the All Blacks and more so South Africa in a couple of years' time. But I mean, the clinical edge they had in that game, Louis Bielbarré, we have to mention him, breaks his own Six Nations try scoring record with 9 tries. We weren't sure whether he was going to do it beforehand because he had to score a hat trick to even match it, but he went and did it. Of course he did. But in terms of, before we sort of finish up on France, because I think that's the key thing to do here, because France have gone and they've won another Six Nations. For England, what do you think Steve Borthwick and the England squad, which have said how tight-knit they are, they've all reaffirmed that point, we're a tight-knit group, we're a good group, there's things coming. What will they take from this Six Nations Championship forward into the Nations Championship and that first game against South Africa in the summer?
I think one thing is probably that they've not got to listen to the media too much. Ellis Genge came out halfway through the tournament and was just like, he saying how much he despises the media and social media and how toxic it can be, and I think that can really get into their heads. So that's something that they've probably got to rein in a little bit. But sometimes it is out of your control, and it's person to person whether you take that criticism on board or not. So I reckon that's one thing that will be in the back of their minds. I think the other thing is to not lose each other in the game. There's a lot of big personalities in that group, and I don't doubt for a minute that they are very close. That you can see it in training, in videos, behind the scenes stuff. They look like they're a proper professional outfit. So I think it's just when it gets in the heat of the moment, kind of compose yourself, get back together and be like, right, this is what we need to do. Because I watched the Ireland game as well against Scotland, and Ireland go under the post, they all stand together, they take a deep breath, and then they regather and they go on and absolutely storm it. So I think they can look at other groups like that who, in the heat of the moment, when things might be getting a bit tough, you just regroup, resettle, and go back to, go back to playing better rugby. I think there's things that Borthwick can do, as I said, the way that the England are playing, I think needs to be changed slightly, and that's that heads up forward playing rugby. And I think personnel changes need to be made in that as well, kind of nailing on different starters. I think Elliot Daly had a really tough day competing against Louis Bielbarré. So I think, whether it's Freddie Stewart or whether it's George Furbank, I think George Furbank would be the better option. I think he's got that youthfulness and that, that rugby IQ to be able to battle with a back three of oppositions of France's quality. It's minor things, really. I think it's very easy to look back and be like, fourth place finish, it's not great. But at the end of the day...
Fifth place finish.
Well, there you
Mind
go.
you.
Yeah, fifth place. I think
He's
you can look back...
Fifth place finish.
I know.
If I say it enough, maybe it'll be true.
Yeah, it was fourth. It was no. I think it looks bleak when you look at it like that. After everybody, including myself, tipped them to win. But you look at it's fine margins, and that's what sport can be at the end of the day. So change the fine margins, and I think we'll be back to what we were looking like in the autumn.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see. You've got the first up is Johannesburg against the double world champions, so it doesn't get any easier the next games. But I think it's interesting what you say there about England. That's the key thing I would highlight as well, Dom. Is playing to your strengths, as you said, but also the key thing I think is that mentality, and that's the one thing where I think Irish rugby has got right completely. I mean, I think our Irish rugby and Andy Farrell's Ireland team, I mean, they came under a lot of flack sort of in the autumn and then at the start of this tournament, but the one thing they have is that sort of, I guess, that calmness under pressure, that sort of, yes, we've got this plan, and no matter what, we're going to keep calm. Finn Russell scores that try on the weekend. You go under the post and you stay calm. And I think one thing in England is maybe at certain points in Murrayfield, when it's not going so well against Ireland at Twickenham, Freddie Stewart gets a sin bin, get that try that Italy score, it's just moments like that. It feels like they've gone sort of, the plan sort of not gone out the window, but it's been sort of, it's got away from them a wee bit, where they just, I think, it is that sort of mental edge where they need to sort of rein in. And I think, to be fair, England, out of any other team in Northern Hemisphere rugby, certainly have the most scrutiny on them as a rugby outfit. Is infamous. Like, it's infamous that a lot of English media, the pressure is on all the time. Whether it's going well or it's going badly, the eyeballs are always on them. But that's something they've got to take on board. It's peaks and troughs. When it's good, the hype is up there. When it's bad, it's a pretty bleak, and I think if they can get there, I think you're exactly right with your points there. If they can get their heads sort of just tunnel vision and focus on themselves and focus on staying together in those moments, and that'd be fantastic. On France, another Six Nations for them, as you say, it was deserved in the end. Just the quality they have is just no other team can really. Well, I know Scotland beat them last week, but as of this moment, I think they've just got far too much quality for any other team in that tournament. It'll be fascinating to see how they move going forward. Obviously, got beat in the autumn by South Africa, so they'll be looking to close that gap and sort of pave out some of those inefficiencies that they have. But congratulations to France. But we'll move on to Ireland. Ireland versus Scotland, which was billed to be, well, it was probably billed to be the most exciting game of the weekend before the weekend had started and before England decided to put on a tremendous performance in Paris. 43 points to 21. Scoreline, as Tommy O'Brien said after the game, perhaps a little flattering on Ireland in terms of Scotland's prowess and how well Scotland did in the game. But I mean, Dom, what did you make of that one? And I guess Scotland's their run against Ireland goes on, but Ireland, I mean, great performance from them.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you say and what Tommy O'Brien said, is that it was a flattering scoreline. 22 points it shouldn't have been that big a gap, and I think, had that try not gone in at the end, obviously it cuts it down to 17. Oh no, that's bad maths. 15. There we go. And that makes it a bit more of a probably right scoreline of how that game probably panned out. But for Scotland, it was just they were always climbing uphill, and I think it just, they never properly clicked like they did against France, and that's just always the case, isn't it? I think, well, more often than not, is that when you play your hearts out, the week before or a couple of games before, to then back it up again and again and again is so difficult. And Scotland, what an improved performance, what an improved tournament for them. To be even in touching distance and be in contention to win the tournament at the end of it is massive strides for them. But they are just still yet to be a team that can week in, week out, put in performances and show up and win. I don't even necessarily think it's the mental battle, but I think just win the battle overall, because so many. It's almost like ingrained into their DNA. Almost, I feel like that. Winning doesn't necessarily come naturally, but they're not a losing team either. So they're kind of in that middle ground of, we don't lose every game, but we're not necessarily winning every game. But they're getting closer to that point. I will give them credit for that. But I just think in that game they were a little bit out of their depths. Going to the Aviva is not a nice place to go. Going to any team's home ground is not a nice thing to do. For Scotland, yet they tried to stay in the fight. Ireland, as you say, they've got that mental battle spot on. So that's just where they trumped the Scots.
Ireland didn't allow them to play. Like, they didn't allow them to settle into the game, and I think it was a tactical masterclass. They went after the breakdown. Something Scotland they've against France, just the speed of ball that they got was fantastic, and they were able to play off the back of that. They didn't allow them any of that. The Irish breakdown, Tagburn, absolutely sensational performance from him. Some great turnovers in there, and he was just absolutely, this pressure they put on that breakdown. Ben White was really just going backwards. He wasn't able to get that zip on the ball. He wasn't really able to get any forward momentum. And then coupled with that breakdown pressure was the line speed of Ireland, and just getting in the face and getting in the outline of Finn Russell and stopping him from dictating his play. And I think Scotland did very well to get the tries they got in the end, but I think he got a lot of entries into the 22, and they're just unable to then sustain the pressure. And then I think it was much like the France-England game in terms of, it seemed like Ireland didn't have to work as hard for their tries, maybe just because I think of the platform of the forwards was so much. But I mean, that was different to the France-England game, because I think England's forwards are on top. But I think similar in terms of the fact Ireland's tries sort of came easier to them. I think that was just the clinical edge that you need to have in international sport, and yeah, Ireland had that on the day. But in terms of Ireland, what could we sort of take from this one? They've got a fantastic record against the Scots, as always. It was a great performance, I think, defensively as well as offensively against a very strong Scotland side. But what do you take out of their tournament, where they are one kick away from winning a Six Nations, which not many people really had them down to win at the start of the tournament, but also sort of any of the deficiencies we may be seen against them in games against France?
Yeah, I don't think many people had Ireland tips to be anywhere near the lifting the trophy. I think obviously people knew that they'd be kind of top three, maybe, some probably put them a little bit lower into fourth, but I think it's just one of those that you can't write Ireland off. They are still just a top nation at rugby, and everything that they've been building towards has, it's reaping the rewards. And to come second, it's really tough for all Irishmen out there like yourselves. And it, like you say, for it to be the last kick of the game. But I think it, very positive still. It took them a while to get going, but I think bringing in like Jamieson Gibson being at his best again, so key. Jack Crowley kind of I think he's now nailed himself onto that 10 jersey. I think Prendergast, I've given him a lot of flack in the past, but he'll get there eventually. I think, put on a couple more kegs and he'll be the first choice in a couple of years' time. But whenever you've got Crowley as an option, you'd be stupid not to use him. I think Stu McCloskey had an incredible tournament. Rob Balakoon as well coming through and getting his chance again. Just kind of, it's that filtering through that we spoke about at the start of the tournament, that now that you've got a lot of players who are getting a bit older, getting on, and who's going to be the ones to replace them, and I think they're starting to fill those gaps. So I don't think Ireland are going to have that kind of lapse again for a little bit, which is good, obviously for yourself and for other Irish fans. So yeah, really positive from Ireland.
Yeah, well, you speak about those new players coming in. I mean, Dara Murray rather is another one, Dom, from Connacht, young sort of, I guess, the hybrid forwards. It just sort of shows you, I think when you look at this tournament for Ireland, it's a successful one, because I think they've won those 4 games, they've done probably better than they were not probably expecting. They're probably, I'd say, as always with Andy Farrell, the expectation is to win. Or that's certainly the expectations they put up on themselves. But in terms of the exterior expectation, it was probably realistically you're gonna finish at best second behind France at best, and that even that we sort of thought was we didn't think we were gonna finish above England. It was probably realistically third actually. But the way they brought in those new players, not even new players. I mean, McCloskey's been in and around the squad for a long, long time, but he's never really been part of the match day squad. You know, he's never really got that many caps just because of how good Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw and others have been. But to bring him in, to bring Balogun in, that's a little bit of fresh blood. Obviously, quite like that as an Ulster man myself, of course. And then you got players like Darren Murray coming in, making that impact, scoring that try, which was well finished from him. To be fair, you've got him, and you've got many others. You've got even some Leinster players that are coming through there. You know, Jamie Osborne, Tommy O'Brien. Yeah, Tommy O'Brien, 2 tries for him, and Osborne. You know, I think you're seeing some fresh blood being brought into that Irish backline and in the Irish team, and I think that's revitalising them a little bit. I think that's exactly what they needed. In many ways, probably a blessing in disguise that you had so many injuries as well, where you had, you know, you were able to bring these new, you know, and then you've got Hansen, you've got Lowe to come back in, you've got many of the props. Porter didn't play at all this tournament, so you've got all these guys to come back in, and I think Andy Farrell will sort of look at that one and they're like, right, we've won the Triple Crown, we've won 4 games, didn't win the Six Nations, but I think a lot of the time with Ireland, they've always done well in Six Nations and punched above their proverbial weights with sides like France and England. But I think he'll take a lot from that in terms of, right, well, 2 years out from a World Cup, this is a huge platform to build on now, because they can compete. They can compete with They can compete with these sides. They just need to build that squad depth. I think that is the key thing. It just got a little bit stale for a wee while there in the autumn, and then the hangover from that was against France and a couple of balls not going their way. But yeah, fantastic tournament in the end from Ireland, and I think they'll take a lot from that. In terms of Scotland, Dom, to bring it back to them, I was sort of, as you were making your assessment there, and what I was thinking before this was Scotland. I always think they have a lot of quality in their side. I think they honestly have a player pool. It's probably not exactly Ireland's level, but not far off it. Do you think they are doing as well as they could possibly be doing?
That's a very good question. I think yes. I don't think they're overachieving, but I don't think they're underachieving either. I think they are probably at the level that everybody expects them to be. I think if they win a game, and like the game against France, for example, they played their hearts out and they deserved that win. And it's like, if that is the quality that was shown. And, you know, it's like, oh, great, Scotland have put in a great performance. This is what we kind of, you know, that's the Scotland that we know and that we love. And it was nice that they can dole out performances like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say that they're underachieving by any means. I think that Italy game was poor. Everybody knows that. But everybody's had their poor game in the tournament. You know, I think they are at the level, like you said, they've probably got a probably similar sized player pool to Ireland, but yeah, I think the quality is definitely less. But as I said last week, they've started to really solidify the team. You know, bringing on Tom Jordan, the back three of Stein, Kinghorn, and Darcy Graham is electric. I love that back three. You know, players coming in, you know, not losing many, but still having quality that can come off the bench. So, yeah, I think they're in a very good place. I think, you know, considering at the start of the tournament there was, you know, people calling for Gregor Townsend's head, I think the turnaround has been superb. So I think now the plan for them will be keep hold of him until the end of 2027 after the World Cup. He'll go and do his stuff with Newcastle, which I think is the plan still. And then, yeah, they'll continue going on whatever path they choose to make for themselves. But the SRU are definitely one of those. They're not 10 years, 5 years in advance. It's kind of a year at a time for them. So yeah, it will just be interesting to see how they progress now, and hopefully they can keep that going.
I don't know, Dom. I hear what you're saying, and I just always want a little bit more from Scotland. I don't know what it is. I just think I just look at the quality they have and how Glasgow have been performing in the last couple of years, and just the quality of, it's just I think they do have near enough as good a squad as Ireland. I do, and I just sometimes I just think if you had an Andy Farrell in there, would can because I think what Andy Farrell is doing with Ireland is he is maximising what he has got there. You know, he is getting the most out of that group of players. He has got the most out of that group of players. Yes, they probably should have made a World Cup semi final. To be honest, 2 years ago they should have done that. I'm just not quite sure Gregor Townsend is with Scotland. I'm not quite sure he's getting the absolute most. I think he got the absolute most last week out of those players, you know, against France, and that was a fantastic performance. I would just be concerned about whether, like, moving towards the World Cup, that where is the ceiling? What's the expectation? That's all I would question. I think he's done a fantastic job as Scotland coach. I just would question sort of, are they going to be, when the World Cup rolls around, are they going to be able to compete with Ireland? You know, are they going to be able to close that gap? And then furthermore, if they do get into the knockout stages, if they do get to that quarter final, they should make it into the knockout stages, because there's an extra round this time in the knockout stages. But once they get there, can they take on these sides like Argentina, New Zealand, whoever they might face, South Africa? I'm not. I don't think the expectation should be that they win the World Cup. They don't have that. That expectation's not attached to them. But can they get? Can they compete better? Because I know, like we said, the 22 scoreline is sort of it's harsh on them, but like could they have got closer in that game? Could they have took it down exactly to the last 10 minutes, to the last 5 minutes? And just sometimes I think it's a little bit underwhelming sometimes, in my opinion. But
No, I do have to agree with you. Do I think Gregor Townsend is the man to lead them forwards? No, but they do need a coach who can, as you say, like Andy Farrell does with Ireland, maximise what they've got and get them, more consistently being a competitor. I think what he's done still is very good, because it's been an improvement on what has previously been. But I still think, like you say, I do think there is more. But I wouldn't say that right now they are under or overachieving.
They'll be happy enough, I'd say, with finishing third in this tournament. I think they have progressed in terms of beating a side like France that went on and won. So I think they can take some stuff from that, and it'll be interesting to see how Townsend moves forward with that. But I suppose we'll see in the Nations Championship in the summer. But moving on to the final game, which was the second game on the day of Super Saturday, Wales finally get their victory in the Six Nations. Now we sort of asked the question: this is a bit of a dead rubber. How's this going to go? Will Italy just be too much for them? But credit to Wales, they took advantage of any potential celebration hangover that Italy may or may not have had, and they came out and they just absolutely thoroughly deserved their victory. Forwards, the physicality was superb from Aaron Wainwright, Dowie Legg, Daf Jenkins, absolutely superb from them. What did you make of Wales's performance and their victory?
I think it's the best we've seen in a long, long time. And it's hope for them, because they know that they've got the right man with Steve Tandy. He's getting it right with them. And as they have done in this tournament, they've got better and better and better. And I think that is the only way they'll go for the next, a couple of months. They will just keep getting better. Players will come back from injury, but Jack Morgan being a massive one. He'll come back into the squad and really give an extra step up for them. Other players, I've got them on the top of the noggin right now, but there's still more that can be done for Wales. They're still not reaching their maximum capacity and doing the best that they absolutely can. But what an improvement from last year's tournament, and just so much better. And it's nice to see from a rugby fan point of view, because everybody wants every team to be competitive. And they've done well to get that win eventually. It's only taken them 3 years, but you know, sometimes that's how long a reshape has to be to start performing again. So no, they've done credit to them. They've really turned this around.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic victory for. I think a person we have to highlight in this is possibly. I'll not reveal whether I have him in my 15 or not, but he would certainly be getting an honourable mention if he isn't. Aaron Wainwright. I mean, that first try, just the line that he hits off Thomas Williams, who again he's been using those forwards to their full capabilities. Crashes over. He's been absolutely fantastic in this tournament. His carrying ability, he just gives them a bit of go forward. I love his little sort of goose. He does a little goose step before he goes into contact. It's great to watch. Doylek as well. We mentioned the captain. Just wears that shirt with so much pride. What have you made of? I guess Wales have been more forward centric, or have been very forward centric in terms of the way they've been playing this tournament. What have you made of Tandy's tactics?
I think he's got them pretty spot on. You know, he's not tried to get them playing above a standard that they are. Tries were a difficult thing to come by at the start of the tournament, and they did well to get the bonus point against Italy. Who have had quite a resolute defence, I'd say, on the whole in the tournament. But yeah, I think it was just I feel like he's almost stripped it back to basics, been like, right, let's learn how to play rugby again. Let's, catch and pass, backs doing the basic kicks, and just if you nail the basics right, then everything else becomes so much easier. And I feel like that's what he's kind of done, is reset it, rebuild. These are the players I like, these are the players I don't like, because there was talk since the start of this Tandy era that, Tommy Reffel, who was such a key part in Wales's previous squad, doesn't feature at all. And it's having that bravery to go, yeah, you've made 20 odd 30 caps for Wales already. It doesn't matter. You don't fit the game plan I want. So yeah, he's implementing his own game plan while resetting the system and resetting the structure, which it's very brave. But at the same time, when you are at rock bottom, what else is there to do? Is it really that brave? But no, what he's done has been really inspiring. So yeah, welcome back, Wales.
Yeah, that's it. Well, they're not back just yet. I mean, they'll have plenty more steps to go, I'm sure. But it's a great glimmer of light for them. We'd sort of talked a lot about last week about the back line as well, and sort of their contributions and stuff like that. I thought it was a wee bit more dynamic this week, to be fair. I think Josh Adams in particular had a great game. He looked sort of back to his best. He was breaking lines, and then Thomas Williams was keeping, and Dan Edwards indeed as well, was keeping the Italian back line guessing. Dan Edwards, the sort of word on him as someone that's sort of come back in. He was dropped for that game against the Scots, and then has sort of come back in the last two games. What have you made of his contribution?
Incredible. Yeah, he was one of my favourite players to watch this tournament. I think they needed that. Once Dan Biggar left, they chopped and changed who was that kind of starting 10. But he's going to wear that shirt for the next 10 years. I just know he will, because he's got that 10 kind of aura about him that I'm in control of this game. And when he's not, he's got Thomas Williams, right in front of him, who can kind of go, Dan, just take a minute, kind of reset. And I think the partnership between them is superb. The drop goal as well, it was a thing of beauty, just unbelievable. Kind of taking the time to go, what are my options here? You know what, I'll just go for post. We'll reset, we'll go again. And it clearly worked.
Well, it's a funny story that is actually, I was watching it with Luke, obviously Luke, who's been on the show for many seasons. Obviously is sort of no longer on the show. Just due to due to other commitments. No, he's still very much alive and well. He's just other commitments, really. We know how much he loves a drop goal, and he was finally able to see one. He actually called it before he went and dropped it, but it was just absolutely dead centre, straight for the posts. But it's interesting to say about that 10, about him being the 10 for the next long amount of time. I actually think Costello was very good against Scotland, to be fair, and I think that's actually I think Dan Edwards probably is the number one, but I think Costello's also sort of shown that he can sort of come in and do a job. And I know you've got Jared Evans there, but I think when you've got those two young tens, it's probably something you'd probably want to build with more. And I think it's a bit like the Ireland discussion where you've got Crowley and Prendergast who are quite young, and then you've got sort of someone a wee bit more senior than that, and Kieran Frawley, well, not too much more senior than that, but Kieran Frawley, who's maybe the more safe option. But I think, yeah, Wales's 10 jersey looks pretty safe in those two, and indeed Jared Evans' hands. But to round up on Italy, they didn't have their best day by any stretch of the imagination. The first 50 minutes was quite frankly abysmal from them. Do you think there's anything to be concerned about there, or do you think it was very much just a Wales sort of needed it more and they showed it?
Yeah, I think that home crowd definitely will have helped. And I mentioned it earlier that going to someone else's home ground is always going to be really difficult. Obviously, they were missing a few key players. I think in the grand scheme of things, the only worry that I would have for them is when they get to the World Cup. I think it was maybe tiredness that got the better of them in that game, and that 6 week block would have probably knocked it out of some of them. Because playing at in the URC or playing in the Prem, whatever level they're playing at, whichever league, playing there and then going to the Six Nations is so much different. So I think it's just going to be, when you play for Italy now, you've just got to step it up that one extra notch. And some of them do. The Canone brothers, incredible. The front row throughout were outstanding as well. And obviously Tommaso Menincello, just what a guy. So some of them have made that step up already, and they're playing like their life depends on it. But the rest of the squad just needs to follow suit. But it's one of those things again that just takes a little bit of time. It will come to them eventually, and I don't doubt for a second that they'll be absolutely fine in the future.
Yeah, they've had probably one of their best tournaments. I think it was certainly up there.
Beating England for the first time.
Beating England for the first time. I mean, that's always great, isn't it? So yeah, they'll take a lot away from that. I think Caseta is probably, I'd say, probably be a bit disappointed in terms of, you sort of head there as favourites and you can go and make it your best Six Nations in a long time, and they didn't quite do that, but they will regroup. They've got the talent there to move forward. So yeah, but that rounds us up on their three Super Saturday matches. Now we'll move on to our next part of the show, which is going to be our players of the tournament and team of the tournament. So Dom, simple as this. I'm just going to ask you for your player of the tournament and young player of the tournament.
I think it's a no-brainer for my player of the tournament, and that is the one and only Louis Bielbiarré. I think what he does, what he has done, the tries that he's scored, he is just so integral for France. And I think if they don't have him in, a lot of those score lines and a lot of those results would be different. He is so quick. He is just so good. On his day, he's actually unstoppable. So I think it's a no-brainer for me that he is my player of the tournament. And then my young player of the tournament, I could have thought about this a little bit longer maybe, but at the same time I didn't want to have to look at every single player's age and be like, oh, who's under 23 here? But I've gone for potentially a bit of an outside shout. I've gone for Dan Edwards as my young player of the tournament. I think what he has brought to this Wales squad now is really important. As I say, I think he's personally going to be nailed on for that 10 jersey for a very, very long time. And so it makes sense that it goes to someone who has almost changed the game for the nation. And I think that's what he's done. I think he had an absolutely incredible game against Italy, has had a very good tournament in general. Yeah, so he is my young player of the tournament. And likewise, who is your player and young player of the tournament?
My player of the tournament, this is probably it's a wee bit different to yours. I mean, big impacts on the games, as you said, with Louis Bielbiaré. I've gone for Kyle Steindon from Scotland. I think he has been absolutely sensational for Scotland. He has been everywhere in attack and defence, just Scotland's best player of the tournament, I think, comfortably. I think Matt Ferguson's also had a very good tournament, but Kyle Steyn was out there. I could have very easily gone for Louis BRA. I think Jalabert was another one that I think has had a very good tournament, marshalling that French attack. But I've gone for Kyle Steyn. I just think his impact for Scotland has been incredible player. Just superb under the high ball, great in attack, just meters made, fantastic, and yeah, he's been fantastic. And then young player of the tournament, which has ended rather badly for him with his 4-week ban, but I've gone for France's Oscar Giroud, their flanker, who sort of played those opening 4 games for them. I thought he was absolutely it was fantastic. He just fit in there beside Olivon and Miafu and others superbly well. And yeah, I think just his contribution, defence in particular. I mean, you see him just knocking back big fellas. He's got the. He's been I think he's been sensational. Really, I did look at Michael Guillard, but I think he is older than he's actually 20. He's like 26 actually, so I had to reassess there. But yeah, I think he's been fantastic. Honourable mention to Teo Atasogbe as well. I think he's been fantastic. He get, I think 5 tries in the end for him. He's fit in seamlessly to that back line. You don't really even notice that Peno's gone, which is it was quite the compliment to the lad. But yeah, that's my player and young player. What's your team of the tournament? Shall we go what 1 for 1 here? Just go Lucid.
We'll go front row, second row, back row.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. What's your front row?
So my front row only has to be one man at Loosehead, and that's Rhys Carey. Unbelievable tournament, scrummaging top. You look at the other options as well, and there's not many who could really give a sniff. Ireland didn't really have a consistent one. I think O'Toole, but did very well against Scotland. However, was defensively very good. Carey's really good. And then you look at the other ones. Genge, not the best this tournament. Aldegheri, again, coming into that France squad, nailed on still. A couple of changes, but I think consistently Rhys Carey was brilliant. Hooker, I've also gone well, so I've gone Dewey Lake. Again, I think most consistent.
You pronounced his name correctly this week?
Dewey Lake.
Dewey Lake. Not Dewey Lake. Dewey Lake.
Whatever.
I stopped correcting you after a while. Yeah, on you go.
Dewey Lake, sorry Dewey. I know he's a big watcher, so I'll get it right.
Hopefully he's been on it. I've interviewed him before. He's on our TikTok, so
we're on his radar, that's for sure. Again, I think that's just a consistency thing. Marchand was very good. I think he probably my second choice. Dan Sheehan didn't play every game, so I didn't really consider him. But Dan's Dan. He's one of the best in the world. So yeah, he's always going to be in the conversation. But no, I think Dewey Lake was very good. And then my tight head, I've got 2 that I'm kind of stuck between. I've got Ferrari for Italy, and I've also got Joe Hayes, because I think Joe Hayes was probably one of England's best players in the tournament. He didn't really have a bad game. Even when we had that shocker against, well, pretty much everybody, he was always the one that was just still pretty good and deserved to be wearing the jerseys. Yeah, I couldn't really split it between those 2. Not in those. I think it's Simone Ferrari. Scrummagingly very, very good. What he did to what him and the Italy squad did to Ireland in the scrum was mental. But Joe Hayes, I think, he'd probably tip it just ever so slightly for no other reason.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever you say. Yeah, I'd be fairly along those similar lines of thinking. I'd say Rhys Carey, Lucid prop, easy. Julian Marchand, I've gone as hooker. I thought Dewey Lake was the other one that I was considering, but I was just sort of thinking, I'm not sure how many Wales players I can have in here when they're Lake is an honourable mention. He's led them admirably. And then I've gone Simone Ferrari. I think, as we've said about that Italian scrum, it's been very, very good, and I think he's a key part of that. Obviously we've been having various people coming out waxing lyrical about him, former coaches and stuff like that. So I think it's sort of an easy one to manifest. But who is your second row options?
Second row nailed on for me is Tadhg. That Scotland game, one of the best I've ever seen him play, and just consistently, he's so good. He is one of the best second rows in the world. Just quietly always chuntering. Just, he's not always going for these big steals or whatever. He just does his job, does it well, and yeah, awesome player. And then I'm kind of stuck between my other one, but both Frenchmen. Mikel Guillard, as you already mentioned, superb tournament, got man of the match in the first game against Wales. Was it Wales? No, it was Ireland, wasn't it? Yeah. And then the other one is Miafu. I think probably one of the strongest players in the world right now. Didn't get as much game time as probably many French fans would have hoped, but when you are so sport for choice in that kind of type 5/back row, that 4-5-6, it's tough to pick, to give people enough game time. But I think maybe Guillard gets it ahead of him, but I think Miafu had
Honourable mention.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have gone for Miafu in there. I think just his impact, especially in that Italy game, is fantastic. And just the way he hit Maro Itoje, that is one of the biggest collisions I've seen in a long, long time. Just absolutely minced him. Yeah, and it was lucky it was Maro Itoje and not per Jack Van Poortvliet or something like that, because he just would have absolutely crushed him.
Hospitalised him.
Potentially so, yeah. I've gone for a bit of a left field one because I remember him playing. This is also because I've gone for Tadhg Beirne in the back row. Just a little spoiler there. But I've gone for Charles Ollivon alongside Emmanuel Miafu in the second row because I thought Ollivon was very, very good in there. I know he's played in the back row, but I think he was too good to miss out this tournament. I think he's come back in. He's been that, I guess, the wise older head in that French pack with so many, I guess, new players sort of coming through in there. So yeah, I've gone for him. But yeah, your back row.
Number 6, I've gone for Charles Ollivon. I don't know how he does it, but every single time a back makes a line break, he is always there for the offload. I don't know how. You look back at some of the games, and he is just always the first man to take that ball and kind of secure it, guard it, and allow France to recycle. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said about him. My 7 and 8 are Ben Earl, because, again, probably England's best player of the tournament. So many carries, so many contact meters. Awesome player. And then my number 8, I've gone Caelan Doris, because the impact that he's made, really unfortunate that he got injured at the end of last tournament, missed out on the Lions. The Lions probably could have done with him, but he's back better than ever, I think. So yeah, he has to get in.
Yeah, he's going to be my honourable mention, Dom, actually. I had very much considered him, but I think Ben Earl, the way Ben Earl has sort of stood out for England and has been just their go-to man, really, in this tournament, I had to go for him at number 8. My 6 and 7 are Tadhg Beirne, obviously, as I mentioned, just the breakdown expert that he is. And then Oscar Giroud, a young player of the tournament. Fantastic 7 for France. Who is your 9 and 10 combo there at fly half and scrum half?
I've gone all French, and I've gone Dupont and Jalibert. I don't think much more needs to be said.
I've gone for the same.
Yeah, I think Jalibert had most try assists. I think Dupont had most kick meters or something. So yeah, the pair of them worked so well together. And to say, Ntamack wasn't there, Jalibert's really made a name for himself in that 10 jersey, and going forward for the French coaching staff.
I think it's the first time he's actually sort of grabbed hold of that. I don't know about you, Dom, but I think that's the first time he's actually grabbed hold of that ahead of Ntamack, because I think he's always come in and he's always been really, really, really solid and or not solid, but he's been very dynamic, and he's created a lot of chances. He's been very that attacking flair that he's got. He's fantastic. That carry that he made from outside the 22, just the bursting through that's what set up that France penalty that went and won the Six Nations. I mean, that just sort of sums it up for you. He's superb with the ball in his hands. But I think he showed that he can actually manage the game this time alongside Le Petit General and Dupont. He was, absolutely fantastic. He's fine, and that is now a fascinating battle at 10 there, because you've got Ntamack, who's played with Dupont since the start of time, and now you've got Jalibert, who just offers something different, really. He offers a little bit more running threat, but he it's just like, who do you go for there? It's a fascinating watch. Who would be your centres?
For my centres, I've gone for Big Stu McCloskey, Ulsterman, and I've also gone for Tommaso Menoncello. I know he's kind of out of position, but he's too good
Yeah.
not to put there. He is
Yeah.
just exceptional. One
Yeah,
of my
I've
favourite
gone
players
for
to
the
watch.
exact same thought process, Dom, to be honest. I was sort of wondering, can I possibly I was trying to play it as fair as possible. They have to have played in that position during the tournament, they have to. And luckily I've had a couple of close calls here where they have played just like one game. Menoncello played that game against France. Obviously that was probably their worst game. Well, probably not the worst game, but Wales was definitely the worst game. But he played in there at 13. But I think, as you say, big Stu McCloskey. I'll take a moment to speak on him as someone from Northern Ireland. I mean, he's been pulling up trees for Ulster for years. He's been fantastic. He's not really got a look into Ireland, probably rightly so maybe, in terms of Bondiaki. He's been just superb. But he's just showed just all his qualities, just physical capabilities. I mean, some of the offloads, the basketball passes that he's done, the American football, you name it. I mean, that one to O'Brien at the weekend, over the top of the heads of Tui Pilotu, and then as we said about Menoncello the other week there, against England, that was just, he cemented himself as one of the best centres in the tournament. Who would your back three be?
I've gone for, it's probably maybe the same as yours. I've gone BLBRA, Carl Stone, and Thomas Ramos.
That's the exact same as mine. Yeah, I feel like we've nearly gone for the exact same here. I can't lie. I think some of the changes, the positions are changed about a little bit, but I think we've actually gone for,
Yeah,
apart
three
from,
or
I think
four
Jagu,
different.
and Doris is the only difference in our
Yeah.
like in the back row. I think that's the only difference.
Yeah, I think I had
Oh,
Dowie Lake.
Dory Leg, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, two
But
changes.
no,
Well, that sort of shows great minds think alike. Yeah, anything to say on Tom Ramos? I know we've talked a lot about Stain and BLBRA, but what about Tom Ramos?
magic from the boot. Just
Slot
yeah,
machine.
slot machine. Yeah, absolutely. There's not much more to say. He speaks for himself. Like creativity, kick, ball knowledge, IQ. He's got it all.
Yeah.
Awesome player.
Yeah, I mean, I was sat there and I saw the referee's arm go out, and I thought that's it, because wherever it is in that half, he's gonna kick it. The fact he's just put it dead center as well is
Yeah,
just, it makes it not even to get not even to get the hopes up and just sort of curve it around and then slightly go in at the end. He didn't. He just goes, I'm just putting it dead center.
The thing is, as well, it was when they were kind of going, "Oh, you can take this penalty, or you can take this penalty from these marks," and it was like, it doesn't matter. Like you're just gonna put it in from either spot, aren't you?
I
Realistically,
think he
so
almost went for the tough third angle. Did he?
yeah, I did as well because I thought the other one was more central.
The initial one was more central. I mean, we can talk
Yeah.
whether that penalty should have been given or not. I think we sort of say it was maybe there's an arm or there's a choke being done by Chesham, I think you were saying. But I mean, just as soon as that arm goes out for the penalty, you know the game's up and he's gonna slot it through. I mean, it sort of shows you that it's worth its weight in gold having a kicker like him. It reminds me very much of Lee Halfpenny for Wales. Just like you give him a penalty, he's gonna slot it through, and it's so good. But yeah, that was our team of the tournament. A lot of agree. I think that's probably the thing we've agreed on most. Probably ever on this show, Dom. To be honest, that was a little bit strange, actually. I wish we could have more disagreements. We're going to move on to our quick fire five here to finish. So, do you want to go first?
I always go first, so you can
Yeah,
go this
you're going to ask me the questions, right? Okay. Same as always, sort of like you have their 15 seconds to answer the question.
Yeah. All right. This has already been brought up this episode, but anyway, see how well you remember. Louis Bielbiere hit the record for tries scored in the tournament, but whose record did he beat?
His own, with 8 last season.
How many yellow cards were given out in the tournament? And I am counting Henry Arundel's as 2.
Goodness, that's a tough one to do quick fire. 1, 2. I'm just going to take a shot in the dark. I'm going to go 7.
Oh, mate, you're way off. 23.
23.
23 yellow cards.
I suppose there's a lot
I think
more
England
yellow
got 9 themselves, so
cards. 9. Goodness,
Yeah.
that is quite a bad shout from me.
discipline needs sorting for England. That's another thing. Which team made the most tackles with 891?
Wales.
Incorrect. It was your boys' Ireland.
Oh, was it? Wow. My second guess was probably going to be Italy or something like that, but
No,
okay.
yeah, Ireland. Very. I think it was that game against Scotland really boosted their numbers because they had didn't have as many entries into the 22, but Scotland just didn't take the points away. I think it was something like 2.7 points per entry, but yeah, could have been a lot better. Anyway, who made the most carries in the tournament?
Ferguson.
Again, it was Ben Earl.
Ben Earl. I'm sure Matt Ferguson wasn't too far off. I know he was leading it at one stage. I was just thought he had carried it through. No pun intended.
Hey, I can tell you how many. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ferguson, where is he? He made 53 carries. I think Ben Earl got up to 90 odd. So yeah, it was a little bit lower.
Wasn't even close.
No. And final question. How many teams at one point in the tournament were leading the tournament?
Oh, okay. So right, we got France. We're definitely leading that. Scotland were leading it at one point. Ireland were leading it at one point, and England would have been leading it at one point. 4.
Correct. So you got a grand total of 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Okay, not bad. Yeah, some tough questions. The first one was pretty easy, but it got quite hard, a lot harder from there. Right, your questions, Mr. Domleach. First question, how many tries has Robert Balcon got in this year's Six Nations?
I didn't watch all of the Ireland game, but I know he got man of the match, I think. I think he did. He definitely got 1 or 2 against England.
And I have to say 5.
I'm going to say he got 5
3,
tries.
2. That is incorrect. It was 3.
He's rubbish.
1
then.
against England, 1 against Italy, and 1 against Scotland.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're quick fire. We've got to think on your
Yeah,
feet.
I got quite thinking on the spot. How many titles do France now have in the Six Nations? So just the Six Nations.
Is it 8 now?
That is correct, yes. There you go. Well done. So Wales last won a game in the Six Nations against Italy in 2023. Name one of their try scorers from that game. So they had 3 different try scorers. Name one of those.
Reece Samet.
That is incorrect, Don. We had Liam Williams, Rio Dyer, and Tulupe Faletau.
Can I also just say that before we started doing this episode, you said, quick fire 5 questions about the 2026 Six Nations, and you've just dug one up from 2023.
No. Hold on. No, this was related to the. This is related to the because this was the last time Wales won a Six Nations game, so it was directly related to the weekend's action or the Six Nations.
Bunker review for that one.
No, I don't think so. I think that's entirely fair.
Go on, what's the next one then?
And I'm producer, so I have. Right. Question 4. When was the last time Scotland beat Ireland in the Six Nations? So they've obviously extended that unbeaten run, but when was the last time?
So I think it was 11 times before this one. So then it would have been 12. So then I'm going to say 2014.
Well, there was a couple of games that they played each other in the Nations Championship and the World Cup, so it's actually 2017.
Oh,
That is incorrect. I think they've had 3 games outside the Six Nations since then, or it was not Nations Championship, Nations series, sort of just in and around COVID. So, final question for you, Dom. So this is to tie it up all square. Dublin-born French international Josh Brennan plays for which French side? He came on at the weekend.
what, for Ireland?
No, for France. So he's Dublin-born, but he's a French international.
This is going to be a bit of a punt.
Gonna rush you for an answer here, Dom. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Leon.
That is incorrect. It is Toulouse. It's
course it
Toulouse,
is.
and he's recently been capped 100 times for Toulouse as well.
Okay,
so,
that's really poor
yeah.
knowledge from me then.
No. Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't have got that, but without having researched it, to be fair. But yeah, that means I win the quiz. rather dubiously, apparently, according to Dom. 2-1. But that is our 2026 Six Nations review. It's been an absolute blast covering all this action over the last 6 weeks. Thank you very much for Dom for covering it with us, and we will be back soon on the Rock and Roll Show. But thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.